Hello and welcome to the Psychology of Networking. So in big letters at the bottom of the screen, you will see it's not about you. And that is what I'd like to say to you about networking. Today, my job is to convince you to reverse your psychology and think about networking instead of in terms what's in it for me, about it's not about you. So from this, you're going to learn the 3 C's of networking. You're going to understand how to get a better return on your networking. Understand why traditional networking fails in most cases. You're going to learn the P.A.C.E method of networking. We're going to play the coffee game. That should be interesting for you. And understand it's not what you know. Discover your circle of influence. Know why if you're telling that you're not selling. Learn 10 key questions and learn how to follow up. So they're the things that we're going to cover in this short Psychology of Networking course. So the 3 C's of networking, my 3 laws if you like. And the first one of those is about consistency. You know, lots of people that tell me that networking doesn't work for them is probably because they're not consistent. Now, it doesn't matter what group you go to, being consistent in the group is the most important thing. So turning up for 2 meetings and then not turning up for the next 4 and then coming back again is one of the mistakes that a lot of people make, especially tradespeople, because they come to a network meeting, they get some work, and then because they've got some work, they don't go networking anymore until they need some work, and then they go back again. That's not right. And it's not good for relationship building. So for me, consistency is the first C. The next bit is about communication. Generally, the quality of your life will be directly proportional to the quality of your communication. So you need to communicate better. So we're going to talk about that, but remember, the way that you talk to people and the way that you listen to people, more importantly, will determine some of your networking results. And the third one is about collaboration. A lot of people go to a network meeting and they'll walk in and they'll see somebody else doing exactly the same as they're doing. So there might be 2 web designers, there might be a couple of IFAs or accountants or business coaches. It doesn't really matter. Instead of looking at those people as competition, look at them as say, well, you know, how can we collaborate here? What can we do together? How could we maybe start a joint venture that works? So think about those 3 C's: consistency, communication, and collaboration. Okay, my P.A.C.E method of networking. You'll all know that I love an acronym. So the P is for prejudging. So I'm going to tell you 4 little stories for each of these. And the first one is a few years ago, I did a talk at a London college or a London hospital. So it was King's College Hospital, London. And I was speaking to 150 surgeons and anaesthetists. And I've turned up in my flip-flops and shorts and my Tottenham shirt. And we're standing at the coffee table and I'm saying, hello, how are you? And nobody is talking to me. They're taking a look up and down and thinking, what's he doing here? So you imagine what they actually thought when I stood up on the stage at the end in front of the lectern and had been introduced as their keynote speaker. And I then started to tell them a story about being summoned to court for a charge of assaulting a police officer. And I painted a picture of, you know, the police officer was here, the 3 magistrates sat up here, and the accused was in the dock. And at that point, I said to all of them, right, put your hand up, all those of you that think that I am the defendant. And over 90% of the people in the room put their hand up. And the reason they did that, which I went on to explain to them, was because they had judged me by the way that I looked. Now, I know this is what they say, first impressions count, and they do. What I'm saying to you is maybe you stop prejudging those people. So if there is somebody in there, another person doing what you're doing, don't judge the room by that. Have a look round. If you don't need a financial advisor, it doesn't mean that that person there is no good to you. If there's somebody else, there's business coaching there and you're not interested in business coaching, it doesn't mean that that person's no good to you. So rule number one, do not prejudge the room. Take out all judgment. In fact, that's a good rule for life. The next bit, attitude. Key one, this important for me, and I believe it's attitude rules everything. So an example, the story for this was we was at another ABC network meeting in Dartford, and I'm the first one there. I'm setting the room up, and this rather large gentleman's walked in and he said, "Hey, you over there, get me a chair." So I've got him a chair, and when I've taken it to him, he said, no, not one of those. I can't get on that. It's too soft. I need a firmer one to support my bad legs or whatever it was. So I got him another chair and sat him down. And I said, "So what are you doing here? You know, what have you come for this morning?" And he said, "Oh, I've come to this networking thing." He said, I don't really like networking. And with that, luckily somebody else came in and I took their money and started talking to them. And later on that morning, around the table, as the meeting had finished, I was telling everybody in the room that ABC networking is not about making money for the network. What it's actually about is bringing small business people together to network to help each other. And this guy, the same guy, stood up and said, "That's a load of rubbish. There must be something in it. You must be making money." So his mindset and his attitude was all about WIIFM, what's in it for me. If you go to a network meeting with the attitude of what's in it for me, the chances are you're not going to come out of it with very much. For me, it's very much about going to a network meeting and saying, how can I contribute? How can I connect somebody in this room? It's not about you attitude. So when I go, it's not about me. I'm not worried about how much work that I get. Now that may seem counterintuitive. In the long run, it will serve dividends, I promise, trust me. Communication. We've already touched on this as one of the 3 C's. Now, an example of communication, I met a multi-level marketing lady at a network meeting in Ashford a number of years ago now, and she said to me, "Oh, can we have a coffee?" And I said, "Yeah, of course we can. Book it in with Sarah, and I look forward to seeing you." So turned up to said meeting, walked in, she's got her coffee, she's sitting there, and I walked in, she stood up, shook my hand, and I've sat down. She didn't offer to get me a coffee or anything. She just said, "Right, and you can earn another £1,500 a month by just 20 hours a week. That's all you need to do. And if you sign up one person, and that one person signs up 2 people, and those 2 people each sign up 2 people, before you know it, for just 20 hours a week, you'll be earning another £1,500 a month." This went on for 25 minutes. And when she'd finished, I then drew her a little diagram and said to her, "These are my books. This is my building company. This is my coaching company. This is my psychology company. Just from my books alone, I earn more money than you're talking about." Now, the point to this story is she had talked at me for that period of time. She didn't ask one single question about me. Communication is more than telling. It is about asking questions, and good quality questions, and listening for the response that the person's making. If she'd have actually asked a couple of key questions at the breakfast meeting, she wouldn't have bothered to actually tell me all that sales pitch that she did. So communication is much, much more than just telling people stuff. It's about asking good quality questions and then listening to understand. The last bit, the E, is for engagement. And what do I mean by engagement? The example here is on one of our first ever mindset courses, which is a number of years ago now. We had a guy come along, and he was an accountant, and he was very opinionated, knew what he was talking about, and after a period of time, he said, this networking stuff, it don't work. You know, he said people that do, they're wrapped up in themselves, and it's a load of rubbish. I'm not going to that. And we didn't see him for 4 or 5 years, something like that, quite a time. Anyway, one morning, he hasn't booked in, he's just bowled up to an ABC meeting in Gravesend. And I said, hello, Mike, how are you? I said, you told me networking didn't work. What are you doing there? And he said, oh, yeah, he said, I've read this really good book. And I asked him what the book was. Funny thing, I actually recommended the book to him 5 years previous at a mindset course, but he'd forgotten that. But the reality of it is, he said in the book, it says, we already know all the people we need to know. We just got to actually make the most of those connections that we already have. I said, oh, brilliant. Well, it's really good to see you. Get yourself tea or coffee and, you know, enjoy the meeting. So we all sat down around the table. Everybody's in. There's about 30 people in the room. He's waiting for his turn to talk. He stood up, said, hi, my name's Mike. I'm a business coach. You really need to come and see me. I'm really good at sorting your business out. I'll help you make more money. And then he threw all his business cards around to everybody around the table as if he's actually, dealing a hand of cards. He sat down, didn't say anything else. We finished the meeting, all went and had breakfast. He got up, had his breakfast, sat down, ate his breakfast, got up and went. He didn't engage with anybody in the room. He didn't move around to different people. He really didn't have the mindset of meeting strangers and turning them into friends. For me, networking is all about turning strangers into friends and friends into clients. It's about building those long-term relationships. Now, engagement is key with whatever you're doing, whether it's at networking. So social media is no different. Social media is networking without being face-to-face with the people. So why wouldn't you engage? Engagement is the key to making your networking work, whether it's actually face-to-face at a network meeting or online. If you're not engaging online as well, you need to really sort that out. So don't prejudge the room. Adjust your attitude from what's in it for me to it's not about me. Communication is all about asking questions and then listening to understand. And then the engagement, get around different people, connect with people, and go with the aim of turning strangers into friends and friends into clients. The coffee game. Okay, so this is traditional networking. This is what I call the coffee game. And this is very much about you meet somebody at a network meeting, you agree, as I did with the multi-level marketing lady, to have a coffee. And we come along and we say, hello, how are you? And, that goes on. And what happens, that will normally go one of two ways. It will either go up to the telling time where I tell, just say, for instance, this is an accountant. I'd go and say to him, oh, I'm the best business coach in the world or the best business psychologist in the world. And he would tell me that he's the best accountant in the world, and that'll be where it is. Or it could go trial by fire. He might think that I'm pretty good. So what he's going to do, he's going to test me with one of his clients. And that client typically, probably, definitely won't be his number one client. It'll be somebody that's at the bottom of his food chain that he can't get a result with. So he'll throw to me because there's nothing to lose. Whichever way it goes, it's going to end up with absolutely no relationship. And this is traditional networking. And the problem is it goes wrong at the coffee meeting just here. Because what everybody is doing, they're focusing on the benefits. It's not the benefits that you need to be focusing on. The real focus point is the problem that you're going to be solving for somebody, not the benefits that you're going to get out of the actual liaison between two people. Most people go and try and sell to that person at the coffee meeting. They're going to sell their service, trade, product. For me, coffee meetings, for me, are all about finding out what the other person's doing. I want to get to know that person. Would I invite this person to my barbecue? Would I invite this person into my house? Doesn't mean I'm going to, but the question is, would I? Because if I don't like them, I'm not going to work with them. So for me, it's the first step of actually building a long-term relationship, because that is where we're going with this. You're not there to sell. Remember that. It's absolutely crucial. We're there for the main reason of building a relationship. Okay, so if I said to you, it's not what you know, I can hear all of you saying, yeah, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But more importantly than it's not what you know, it's who you know, but it's how well you know them and how well they know you. So here's a few little things that you've got to actually get into your mind for going forward with this. Networking is all about building the relationships. It's not about selling. I can't say that enough to you. For me, the crucial bit is about how do you build this relationship on a long term? Because people really do business with people they know, like, and trust. If they don't know you, they don't like you, and they don't trust you, there's no chance that they're going to do business with you, because there's nobody out there that's got a unique business. There's nothing, or very few people, that is absolutely unique. The chances are somebody else is doing exactly the same thing and they will like that person. So your first job is to get to know these people and get to like them and get to trust them, and then they will reciprocate by doing the same. Your job is very much turning strangers into friends and friends into clients. Think about that. You're changing from going to a network meeting to get business from it. You're going there to turn strangers into friends and friends into clients. Now imagine, how many people do you know, and I can't imagine you would have done it, but how many people go there and they end up spending the whole of their time at a network meeting speaking to people that they know. For me, the first thing that I want to do, I want to see the new people. I want to get to know the new people, to see, you know, what they are, what they've got to offer the community, and how can I possibly connect them with somebody. It really isn't about you. You've got to get this out of your head when you're networking. You know, most people won't be interested in you. Can you imagine I'm standing up and saying, hi, my name's Ash, I'm a psychologist. They're not going to be interested in that, because they'll say, oh, what do I need a psychologist for? And then all they'll be thinking is this guy analysing me, which we all know I don't do. So they're only interested in getting business for them. That's why they're there. They're there to get business. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we're not there to get business. Of course you are. We want business. The reality of it is, what we actually want is to turn this person into a friend and then into a client. They will eventually buy from you or refer you to somebody else. Most people look at who's in the room and then they make that judgment. We're back to the judgment bit. They'll work around and just see, they want to sell it. And, you know, a classic example of this, I was at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, an after hours club, a number of years ago, and I was with a couple of people that I know and another guy that I'd just met, and I was actually introducing him to the three people that I knew. And this guy's come up and he's a web designer, and he's just barged straight. He said, hello, he said, my name's John, and I'm here to sell websites today. We do. And I said, whoa, John, slow down. This is, and then I introduced him to each of the people. He shook their hands and then he said, anyway, my websites are the best websites. And I said, well, John, slow down again. John, who's that there? Oh, I've forgotten. I'm not very good with names. And that just sums it up. How many people do you know that have done that at a network meeting? All they want to do is spurt at you what they know. So they're only there to sell. So the thing of all of this is very much, it's not about you, but other people will make the judgment and they want to sell. Don't let that be you. So remember, the circle of influence. This is really important for you. The circle of influence for most people is about 250. On average, there's about 250 people that will be within your family, within close friends, your not so close friends, work colleagues, business associates. You know, they're all people that are, sorry, I pushed too many, that are in your circle of influence. Now, there are other people out there that have got a massive circle of influence and are what I would call key people of influence, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Your job is to actually get to know that person so well that ultimately they're going to introduce you to their circle of influence. That is what we're trying to do. So I need you to suspend your beliefs. So if anything that I've said so far, you're thinking, yeah, that's a load of old rubbish. What I want you to do, everything that we've talked about so far, I want you to go and try it and prove me wrong. That is your job with this. Go and do it the way that I've said to you do it, and prove me that this doesn't work, okay? So also, forget what you think you know. What you think you know about networking is getting you the result that you're getting. If you're not getting the result that you want, guess what? Change it. When you're going, find the center of influence. Find that person who is a KPI, a key person of influence. You'll generally see that person because other people will be standing around that person and wanting to get to know them. Do your homework. So if you meet somebody and you're introduced to them, have a look at them on LinkedIn. How many connections have they got? Your job is to build your relationship with that KPI. Make contact sensible rapport building. You know, what do you know about rapport building? How good are you at rapport building? Do you know about, you know, mirroring and matching those people? Do you know about tonality? You know, what do you know about rapport building? If you don't know anything about rapport building, just get online and find out and start practicing it. Pick one thing and see how you get on with that. Try the mirroring effect. One of the things for me, my best mate, when we go out for a couple of beers, he's a very slow drinker. I'm actually quite a quick drinker, funny enough. And then what happens, we go through the first pint and then I match him to start with. And then I start drinking quicker, and funnily enough, so does he. And then I drink back to the pace that I want, and he ends up drinking at the same pace. That's called mirroring and matching. So, you know, learn a bit about your rapport building. And remember, it's not personal. It's not about you. Don't take it personal. The way that I look at it, you're not going to get everybody in the room. You know, some will, some won't, so what? I call it SW. So think about that. You don't have to win everybody. You know, just try and build rapport, try and turn that person into a friend and then into a client. But if they're not having it, don't worry about it. Move on. You know, you don't know what's going on in their mind. It could be anything. You know, they could be so fixated on whatever you're doing. Oh, another web designer, I'm not interested in that. Another business coach. You know, how many network meetings you've been there full up with business coaches? So you don't know what's going on in their minds. So don't worry about it. You know, and then judge that other person, you know, positively. You know, for me, rather than look at, you know, the negativity from that person, just move on. And, you know, they've got stuff going on in their head. Don't worry about it. And that's a key thing for you as well. Be very aware of your, you know, cognitive bias. Is it a negative cognitive bias or is it a positive cognitive bias? Are you naturally negative? Are you naturally, you know, doubtful? Are you naturally cynical? Are you one of those people, yeah, well, it never works out for me? The trouble is, if you're like that, that will radiate from you. People like positivity. So make sure that your demeanor when you're rapport building is positive, and then you'll attract more positive people towards you. And remember the law of reciprocation. You know, if you go into a foreign restaurant, when you're abroad on holiday and you ask for the bill, the first thing they bring you around with the bill is some extra drinks, maybe a shot at the end of it or some chocolates or something. They'll do that. I mean, more and more places in this country are doing it. But the reason they do that is because if they've given, they know they get more on the percentage of their tip. So, you know, it's no coincidence that, you know, B&I, the top networking group throughout the world is, you know, their motto is givers gain. But for me, life is like that. You know, I will go out of my way to help anybody, and I will continue to do so all the time that they help themselves, because I know the law of reciprocation will bring that back to me. So just remember that. That is what we're doing. Okay. If you're telling, you're not selling. What do I mean by that? So go back to the on the PACT of this, not the PACT, the PACE method of networking, the C, the communication. That lady was telling me all the time what she's doing. If you're telling somebody, to me, you are not selling yourself or that product. So when you meet somebody, the chances are they're going to ask you what you do. So they'll come up to you and say, hello, and what do you do? You know, people say that to me. So I've got stock answers. I will say something like, well, funny enough, I train elephants, but more importantly, tell me what you do. So I'm switching it round immediately, because what happens is you've all had an experience where you've turned up and somebody's asked you you've asked them what they do, and then they end up for the next 10 minutes boring the life out of you with how they're an accountant and how they count numbers. So don't fall into that same trap, because you'll walk away and they'll be bored with what you've said. Okay? So you answer and turn it round. Remember that. Another one I use is, I'm a synchronized swimmer, but more importantly, tell me what you do. Dale Carnegie, one of his first books, I think, How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is one of his things that he said. One of his rules was, you know, the most interesting people are those that are interested in us. So if you turn that round and flip it back on those people and ask that question, you are going to be more interested because you've listened to them, and they'll go away thinking, oh, he's interesting. Oh, what does he do? Oh, he trains elephants. Oh, I'll have to find out what that is. And then they'll realise that they haven't asked you, but they've told you, but you will be interested and you will fix in their mind. The other thing is the chances of you having what that person wants at that very moment is pretty remote. You know, my lead time for picking somebody up at a network meeting is generally 6 to 12 months. You know, at the end of the day, I'm a psychologist. Somebody's not going to come up to me at a network meeting and say, do you know what, I'm pretty messed up in the head, can you help me? You know, they're not going to do that. Even if their business is struggling, they're not going to admit to me at a network meeting that their business is struggling, because the prime reason they're there is to get more business. So they're not going to admit that to me. So it's going to take a bit of time. So again, your job is to get to know that person and break down the barriers and turn them into a friend. If you was a plumber or electrician or a tradesman, yeah, maybe that they just walk in on that day and you need your leaky tap fixed, or you know, you've got a fuse board that's not quite working, then yeah, for tradesmen. But if you've got a service, you know, like accountancy or like legal, yeah, it's going to take a lot longer. Your job is to ask open-ended, feel-good questions. You need to think about those. And I'm going to go through 10 questions with you in a minute to help you form some ideas. You don't have to use all 10 questions one after the other, but pick a couple that you can ask people to actually make them feel good about themselves. The power really is in the asking and not in the telling. Forget about, you know, telling people about what you do. I want you to practice that about asking better questions. So here are 10 examples. Don't use all of them, and I'll give you a short reason why asking the question will be good for you. So how did you get started in the business? It's an easy one, that, because, you know, most people say, so what do you do? That's a standard thing. So more, ask how you got into that. You know, if somebody was asked, how did I get into the psychology bit? And I'll do that. How did I get into cars? And I'll tell them that. But not very many people ask that question. So that will make you a little bit different from the start. What do you enjoy most about what you do? See, there's a positive. It's what you enjoy about that. Or what don't you like about your business? No, get rid of the negativity. Think about the positivity, because we're trying to make that person feel good. What separates you? That's a great one, isn't it? You know, think about the questions that I'm giving you to ask others. But if somebody asks you that question, how are you prepared? What separates you from what you do, from what others do, sorry? What does separate you? Think about that. And most people will say, well, it's me. Yeah, and anybody's going to say that. You know, have something there that makes you different. So by asking them that, they won't have been asked that question. This is a good one. What advice would you give to someone starting out in your particular profession? What this is doing, this is making them feel good and important, because it makes them feel like an expert on their particular, you know, business. So ask that question. What one thing would you do with your business if you couldn't fail? That's a great question for anybody. You know, what would you do? Because that's an interesting one for me. You know, if you couldn't fail, what would you do? And then I'll start to get into somebody's mind about why would you think you're going to fail to start with? But good question to ask. Another one. What changes have you seen in your industry over the last 10 years? Again, you're asking them to be the expert, and what changes they've done and how is it going to change in the future? You know, these are all questions that people haven't seen. What do you see as the coming trends? How's that going? I told you about the article that I read a couple of weeks ago about Marks and Spencer and Facebook, and the difference between them and the very amount of money that Facebook were making compared with Marks and Spencer's with twice the employees, was because everything is going digital. So, you know, what is the coming trends? When you ask that, you know, shows that their knowledge again. Describe the funniest event in your business. Ask somebody that question. You know, we did this for ABC, did a video of, you know, things that make you laugh. And, you know, it brought out a whole different thing to people, because, you know, it's just different to what everybody else asks. What ways have you found to be the most effective in promoting your business? How do you promote your business? That's classic. Most people haven't got a clue. And then what one sentence would you like people to use when promoting your business? I was described in an excellent way this week. Somebody connected with me and said, so-and-so has just recommended you, Ash, and they said you're a no bullshit kind of bloke. And I thought, yep, that's got me in one. So the final key question. So you don't ask all 10 of those. You're going to ask a couple, 2 or 3. And then, but to end the conversation and to wrap it up nicely, the final key question, and only after you've got rapport with a person, which you should have done if you've been asking some good open questions, is how can I know if someone I'm speaking to will be a good prospect for you? Now, I bet you everybody in that room hasn't been asked that question. This will show, and this will stand you out in their mind, because nobody else has asked them that. And they'll be thinking, do you know what? This person really actually wants to promote me. And at the end of the day, that's why we're at networking, for other people to promote our businesses. It's all about helping them. And that's what will make you stand out in their mind. So remember that. How can I know if someone I'm speaking to will be a good prospect for you? Remember the law of reciprocation. Okay, moving on. What do you do? How do you move away from it? I'll get asked this question lots of time. I'm stuck with somebody and I'm there. So after 5 to 10 minutes is easy. So give me your card. Have you got a business card that I can look at, that I can take? They will give you a card. If they ask you for a card, right, give them one. But do not offer a business card unless they ask for it. I promise you this, what will happen is if you just give your card, that card will end up in their shredder or in the bin. And it's like the guy that I said with the engagement bit in the P.A.C.E, he threw his cards around the table. Nearly every single one of those cards was still on the table in the same place when everybody had gone. So do not offer your card unless they specifically ask for it. Move on to the next person. Start again with a key question. So, use the key question to finish. So, you know, I've got to move on now, but tell me, you know, how will I know when somebody I meet will be a good prospect for you. So remember this, you never know who you're talking to or who they know. That's the important bit. You know, I've met some very important people, and I know some pretty well connected people. So, you know, if you're judging me because I'm wearing shorts and flip-flops, more fool on you. So don't judge anybody. This is a great one, this. When you leave, say goodbye and remember their name. Most people at a networking event, by the time you've shaken their hand to say hello, my name is, within a minute, they've forgotten your name. Do not fall into that trap. You must remember people's names. So take their card, remember them, take their card and use it. And the way that I do this, sorry, we'll come on to that. Remember to introduce people to other people. So a good way of getting out of it is, this is so-and-so, oh, meet so-and-so, and then put them together. That's a good way to bring it to an end as well. This is a good one. I really like this. Position yourself as a matchmaker or a connector. I really like doing this for people, to bring people together. It may not come to anything, but at least you've connected people. And, you know, one of the things that I do when I connect with new people on LinkedIn, I'd say to them, have a look through all my contacts. And if there's anybody in there that you would like to meet, let me know and I'll connect you. Remember the key question. So that is something I want, the next time I see any of you at a network, I want to hear you saying that. I want to hear you using that question. Take some time. Pick those questions out, pick your favourite ones out and get used to using those with other people. Remember, turning it round. Okay, keeping it warm. This is crucial, okay? Practice, Kaizen, never ending and continual improvement. You can never be too good at networking. So keep practicing all the things that we've talked about. Your follow-up email. It's about thanking, it's not about selling. Don't say, oh, really pleased to meet you at so-and-so meeting this morning, and have a look at my website. I've got this. Have a look at this. This is how I can sell you this. And if you forget all that, send an email saying, really pleased to meet you at so-and-so network this morning. If you connect on my LinkedIn page and you see anybody on there that I can connect you with, please ask. Okay, so you're thanking them for meeting them. You're actually then offering them something that has got no need for them to buy anything from you or feel committed. Make sure you connect on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. You know, why would you not do that? This is free advertising for you. These are all connections. Why would you not do that? Data is one of the most important things that we collect these days. And if you're not connecting on LinkedIn or Facebook and Twitter, you're just mad. That is crazy psychology. You know, for me, the first thing you should do is come back, send that thanking email, connect with them on LinkedIn, connect on Facebook, ask them for their Twitter bit so you can then add them to your Twitter list of that network groups so that you can then actually start sharing their tweets and Facebook posts. Because remember, by sharing, you're giving back. The law of reciprocation will come. It doesn't cease to amaze me that once I start engaging with people on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, they start engaging back. And I share their stuff, they share back. Funny that, eh? This is important as well. Most people, they sweat about their 1 minute and standing up and doing it. It's not about the 1 minute. And one of the things you must remember about is when you do stand up, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. If you stand up and say, hi, my name's Ash, I'm a psychologist. I'm not saying you should say that because your name's probably not Ash and you're probably not a psychologist. But if you stand up and say, hi, I'm blah, blah, and this is what I do, the reality is you've lost probably 80% of the people in the room when you tell your name. Then when you tell them what you do, you've probably lost nearly all of the rest, because ultimately they won't be interested. If they don't want a new website or, you know, the next haircut or the next essential oil or the utility warehouse, if they don't want that, they're not even listening to you. So I would always say to you, tell a story. Tell something that's happened that's relevant to what you're doing, and then finish with, my name's Ash, give me a call, or not. So there you have it. That's everything in a nutshell. Remember this, because it's important. The quality of your life will be directly proportional to the quality of your relationships. And the quality of your relationships will be directly proportional to the quality of your communication. So learn to communicate, learn to reverse network, as I call it. It's all about reverse psychology. If you've enjoyed what we've talked about today, you've got any questions, please give us a text or an email. Thank you.